So I'm sure over the past few years, you've had more than one bad Zoom experience. But today we are going to fix all that because I have the best Zoom expert to help you out. So let's jump in.
Welcome to the Course Creators HQ podcast, helping you navigate the latest techniques for creating and marketing online courses. And now, here's your host, Julie Hood.
So today's expert is here to help us make sure we do not have any more boring Zoom calls with our coaching clients or with our students. And he's got an incredible set of resources to share with you, and you'll be shocked at the price. I'm so excited to be able to share this. So today I want you to go over to Course Creators HQ .com/boredom, or check the show notes. It'll be in the show notes, and grab all the resources that Robbie Samuels has for you to improve your Zoom calls, and then make sure you get his book. So depending on when you are listening to this, hopefully the ebook is still at a good price for you, like $9.99. I couldn't believe that when I came across that. So grab the free resources, grab the book, and then listen in for the rest of this episode, because I had him answer some of my own questions about how to make Zoom even better. So let me know what you think. I'm curious if you find this helpful to make your Zoom calls even better. Hey gang, I'm so excited for this chat today. We have Robbie Samuels here, who is got to be the best Zoom guru I have ever come across. And on top of that, he's got a new book out. So he's sharing all of his secrets with us today. So I hope you will listen all the way to the end, because he's got some good bonuses and stuff for us if you grab the book. And I twisted his arm and got him to share with us some of the biggest pet peeves folks have with Zoom and how to fix them. So Robbie, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate you jumping on the podcast with us.
Julie, thanks for inviting me. It's going to be a good conversation.
I hope so. I hope you have a good time with it, because, okay, so, we've all been doing this Zoom thing for so long now. We kind of got started in the middle of the pandemic, and tell us a little bit about how you jumped into this, and then we'll get into those 5 pet peeves.
So prior to the pandemic, I spent over a decade teaching people how to network at conferences. That included a talk that I did for more than a decade called Art of the Schmooze. I launched a podcast called On the Schmooze back in 2015, 2016. Wrote my first book, Croissants versus Bagels, Strategic, Effective, and Inclusive Networking at Conferences. I wrote HBR articles about networking at conferences and did a TEDx talk on networking at conferences. So that TEDx talk came out in January of 2020, and I was poised to be an overnight success, 10 years in the making. Had achieved like all the achievements and accolades. And 2 months later, that TEDx was moot. Nobody needed to know any of the skills that I had acquired: eye contact, business cards, shaking hands, body language. I had to find a new way to show up and offer value. And I wrote a blog post on the Thursday, March 12th, that was an email list that I sent to my email list the following week. It was 9 ways to network in a pandemic. And number 3 was to host a virtual happy hour. So that night I said, I should do one of these. And I picked number 3, and I shared it with a few community members, and people said, yeah, I'd come. So that's how I ended up hosting my first virtual happy hour on March 13th, 2020, which is just about 3 years ago from when we're recording this. And 8 months later, I had a thriving 6-figure business based on all new revenue streams. And I had built out programs, a certification program, and I became a virtual event design consultant and executive Zoom producer. I work with organizations to help them bring their events online with less stress and greater participant engagement. My second book addresses how I built that business, Small List, Big Results. And my third book, as you mentioned, just came out, Break Out of Boredom, Low-Tech Solutions for Highly Engaging Zoom Events.
Oh my goodness, so much I could talk about there, but I don't want to take us down too many rabbit holes, because I could really dig in. But one of the big things I want to make sure we pull out is the fact that you could have kind of given up right there at the beginning in January and said, "Oh my goodness," as things were falling apart, and you didn't. You just pivoted, an incredible pivot, not just a "I'm going to survive" pivot, but an incredible pivot. So congratulations on that. That's
Part of this, Julie, is that I'm a business growth strategy coach. And at the time that this all started happening, I was coaching about a dozen entrepreneurs a week on behalf of a company. That company in April said, "Hey, do you mind taking on this other role, overseeing a cohort of students going through an online course about how to launch an online course," which is very meta. And I had no business. So I was like, sure. And it turned out that was a more than full-time job. It was 120 people in the cohort. And at
wow.
first, people are very engaged. So towards the end, it was like 30 people who were still involved, but it was very hands-on, tons of hours of work. But I heard a lot of business. I mean, it sort of just brought so much more information into my brain. And I realized that I can't just fill my calendar with catch-up calls. That all these people were reaching out to me around that time. "Hey, Robbie, you seem to know something about Zoom. Can you this? Can you that? Can I pick your brain?" So I turned those calls into research calls, which I'm sure your folks know about. And I was able to take that, and within 1 month, I announced the pilot of a 4-week program, the 5% Advantage program, which is to help people become more confident and competent using Zoom. And the third month that I ran it 4 months in a row. It became a certification program, and it's changed people's lives who've gone through it. So I basically treated myself like a client, and I did the work that you're telling all of them to do. And my second book is basically how to do those research calls and discover likely prospects within your existing network.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm going to link in the show notes to both of these because I definitely want anybody who's listening, you need both of them.
Yeah,
So,
small list, big results. Launch a successful offer, no matter the size of your email list.
oh my
And the
goodness.
hint here is that your network is always bigger than your email list.
That's true. That's true.
Mhm.
Oh, so good. Okay. So, all right. We were talking about how all of my course creators use Zoom. And in fact, I encourage a lot of them to record their lessons on Zoom. So I'm curious, before we get into the pet peeves, do you agree that it can be a good place to record for a course? Would
Oh,
you say?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, for all the reasons that we talked about a moment ago, which is like you already know how to do it. You already have all your filters. You already have your beautiful setup. You know it looks good. I mean, there's some things to do to make sure that it looks well as far as your positioning and framing. But I think it's really a great place to do it. The thing that bothers me, and that I think they're actually coming out with a new product, is that you don't have an easy way of doing lots of quick retakes like you might with Loom, Loom. But they're actually coming out with a new product sometime. They said this quarter, so maybe it hasn't come out yet. But a sort of version of that where you could do quicker recordings instead of having to stop the entire thing, open up the QuickTime file. Like it's a little tedious. But if you're doing short clips and you get into a good pace, you know how to do it. You also can have the transcripts enabled, and you're able to then get the transcripts that you can clean up and then have those be uploaded with your video, because some people would rather read along or use it to search for some part of the video they wanted to read the details. It's also better for your SEO to have that. So yeah, I think Zoom has a lot of great capability.
Awesome. It's so good to know. And I want to share this little secret that you told me right as we were starting. So everybody knows this was so good. This is going to make my life so much easier. But if you get on a Zoom call and you're recording already, and then you need to restart the recording, you can just hit stop and restart, and you'll get two separate files. And I don't know how I didn't know that before, but that is brilliant. That's going to be super helpful and save all that cutting and editing off the beginning that I have to do. So thank you for that, Robbie. Okay, so these 5 pet peeves, let's get started on these. And thank you for helping us so that we do a better job. What's the first one?
Well, I think for the context of what you're doing, creating programming courses and group coaching and that kind of thing, not looking at the camera. I produced a show where the facilitator was the topic was very sensitive, and the facilitator was leaning forward on her elbow and looking down at whoever was speaking and murmuring, but we were looking at her forehead.
Oh,
we weren't
no.
we were not getting that, like, "Oh, I'm holding space for you. What you're saying is really difficult." We were getting, Like the forehead show. So eye contact with the camera is so important. And in my book, I talk about all the ways to kind of train your eyes up. I currently have two googly eyes looking at me, so I'm making eye contact. It's a little shifty eyed, so they're quizzical. But but keeps me entertained. There's so that's one. So if you do recordings and you're not looking at the camera, that's an easy way to create more engagement. Another one is if you're hosting something and you're inviting people in and you don't turn off the waiting room. So I think everyone should start with a waiting room, but you should disable it when you're ready to go because otherwise people can get stuck in the waiting room. Like at first, you know to let everyone in one by one, and then let's say like okay everyone's here and you start getting into your content, you're not paying attention. What if someone gets disconnected and then joins again? Well, now they're just sitting there, there's no way for them to contact you. So just like a
Right.
teacher would tell students, hey, if my door is shut, please wait in the hallway. When I'm ready, the room's set up, I'll push the door open and prop it open. So if the door is open, everyone just comes in. But if you're not ready, you don't open the door until you are. When you are, you open the door and you let everyone in from the hallway, and then you leave the door propped so no one else gets stuck there. So again, in the book, I kind of itemize the steps here. You want to first of all have a passcode as well as a waiting room because you can't disable the waiting room if you don't have a passcode. You can put it
Oh.
in the link, that's totally fine. But then when you're ready to go, you go to your security badge, which is the bottom left side of your Zoom toolbar when you're the host. And there's an option that you basically uncheck enable waiting rooms. That's the prop the door open. And then you go to your participants list and you hit admit all. And that's you waving everyone in. But now everything's open. So anyone else who joins just comes right in. No doorbells. Please turn off the doorbells. Like, don't even think I have to talk about this. But the other day I was on an event and every time, and then afterward I mentioned it, he goes, you all heard that? I thought it was just going to be, me, the host. And like, yeah. And every time everyone left, we heard it too. It's like coming and going is like a little ding dong. It's like, oh, like, I'm sorry. That's a pet peeve I didn't even think to underline in my book because that's something from so many years ago. I forgot people still do it. So those are a couple of things, and I'm happy to share more.
Yeah, these are so good and not that hard to do. It's just something you have to think of and like remember. So tell me more.
Not giving people the sort of rules of the meeting. So I think every meeting needs to start with like an orientation or a housekeeping. The main things people want to know would be things like when and how can I ask questions and when will you answer them? So are we going to be using raised hand? Are we going to be writing questions in chat? I like to have people write the word question in all caps before whatever they write in chat so that I can spot it. But not knowing that, and you're wondering why are people not ready to ask questions when it's time for Q&A? It's like they aren't being primed, they're not being invited in. And what happens, I believe that structure is actually a way to create more a sense of belonging. When we don't have good structure,
Mhm.
the loudest, most privileged, most comfortable, most senior people in the room are going to confidently grab the mic. They may not relinquish the mic, but they'll confidently grab the mic. So being really thoughtful about, here's how we're going to do certain things. Please update your name to have, first name, last name, pronouns if you'd like, and your either location, organization, favorite holiday food. It doesn't matter, right? Like something, and that's their name badge. So if they do go into breakout rooms, that follows them in. I think to blindly like write something in chat, like tell us where you're calling in from. That is so 2019. And like, yes, you found chat. That's great. But that information is not attached to you. And I can't, like, when you write something in chat, if it's in your name, it also appears in the chat. And I might be like, oh, Boise, Idaho. Wait a second. Like, who knows, whatever it is. So I think we can all do a better job orienting people to our communities and letting them know the rules. It's sort of like billiards or playing pool in someone else's basement. If you don't ask ahead of time, they might have house rules that you didn't know.
Right, right, exactly. So I'm curious, when you were starting a room, this has always been kind of a question of mine. And one of my personal pet peeves is when I show up on time But the host is like, oh, we're just going to wait for people. I had one guy that's like, great, glad you're here. I'll be back in 10 minutes while we get everybody else in the room. I'm like, I'm out. I'm not sitting here for 10 minutes while you wait on other more important people to show up. So
Wow.
I know it was not a pleasant experience. So I'm curious,
Yeah.
like, do you have any suggestions for that too?
I have I will just tell you that the unofficial subtitle of this book is Robbie's Pet Peeves and How to Avoid Them. So I have a book's worth of pet peeves. And yes, I was just at a meeting the other day. It was for parents. We had never met before. There were three facilitators. As they closed the waiting room, they were just finishing up saying, okay, you'll do that. I'll do this. Okay, great, great, great. And then they all went silent. No one looked at the camera. No one waved. No one smiled. No one greeted us. No one wrote anything in chat. We just sat there, sat there. So it's like, yeah. So I do like it though that people aren't talking. Like one of my pet peeves is when people unmute and then there's a sidebar conversation happening as everyone else joins, and you're like, "Am I late? Is this a topic? I'm confused." They seem to really know each other. I'm the one who doesn't know anyone. So what I like to do is everyone's muted upon entry, which is a setting on the meeting. And then if it's a formal event, I'll actually do music and a countdown clock for my clients. If it's an informal event, I will play music, and in chat, either way, in chat, I will write, welcome. Here's how I'd like you to update your name, and here's how to do it. Meanwhile, enjoy the music. And I basically am saying we're going to start in a couple of minutes. And what I always do is I give people a 2 minute grace. And occasionally I will lower the volume on the music to say, hey, check out chat. We'll start in 1 minute. The reason I give people a 2 minute grace is I know no one has parking issues or weather to concerned about, but we often don't give each other like time in between these Zoom calls, like bio breaks, like stand up and
Yes.
refill your water, let your dog out. Like, so I give people a 2 minute grace, but I'm entertaining them if they're there, and I start at 2 minutes after. I don't like wait 10 minutes or some random thing, and I wave at people as they come in, and I'm chair dancing, and so people are like entertained, and they know like, okay, Robbie's gonna start in 2 minutes. Like I'm telling them, like you've got this little grace. If I open the room no earlier than 2 minutes before, and then I'll play something until 2 minutes after.
I love that. And that's just a couple minutes. It's not like the 10 minutes that I had. So that's so good.
Well, and I'm
Uh,
not saying we're going to keep waiting for people. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we're waiting until this time.
right, right.
And I'm
That's
giving you until this
important
time, not we're waiting for more people to show up because who
because you're not
knows?
important enough.
Yeah,
um, so okay, I could probably talk forever, but I do have one more important question.
sure, sure.
I have tried so many times to get timers in my Zoom rooms and not very effectively. So do you have a good way to do the timer that you would recommend?
So there's two timers I can suggest. One is there's one built into breakout rooms that we should always use. So when you're setting up your breakout rooms, the same window where you hit open rooms, on the left side, there's a little gear. That's the options for that breakout room. You should check all the boxes except for the top one. And one of those boxes says automatically close breakout rooms after blank minutes. So if you put in, let's say, 10 minutes, what will happen is there'll be a countdown clock showing up in the top right corner when folks are in breakout rooms. On the bottom of that little window, it says, then have a 60-second countdown. Well, I think if you're watching the clock come down, that should be 15 seconds. This is idea of walkward, when you do this big goodbye and then you both go in the same direction to your parked cars. It's a little odd to like be like, oh, that was great. And then all of a sudden there's like a minute, which is not quite enough time. So people leave, some people like, it's just awkward. So countdown clock, 15 seconds. That's perfect. The other option is through Zoom. There are these built-in apps. When you update your Zoom, you'll see apps in the bottom of your screen on the bottom right, and you click on that. And there's actually a couple of timer options you can play around with. The one I like, by the way, it's just called like timer. So I can't even give you the name of it. But it allows you to basically put a circle countdown clock up on your gallery. Like if you keep everyone in
Oh,
gallery view, it'll show up next to your head. And if you're staying gallery view, everyone will see it. And I actually go to a meeting that uses Blue Sky Timer, which is a different third party option. And Blue Sky Timer It's free for X number of minutes a month, and then you pay for it. But she uses it to do 15-second introductions with 60 people, and it
Wow.
works.
And it
It
works?
works, and it works. And we all say in gallery view, and you can see the clock. And then she's careful to like remind people, okay, everyone, we're doing 50. Like if people go over, she resets expectations. And yeah, so it's incredible that there are these tools to help us facilitate virtually that we don't have as well, like in person. What would the equivalent be if we had breakouts of groups discussions? Like no one would know exactly how many minutes were left. Like use these are great tools that give us and our participants and our facilitators like a better sense of the timing.
And I think it can make an even better experience, even though it's online. Like some of it, I think, is even better than live sometimes because it can be so interactive. You can have the timers and all those good ways to help people connect. So, oh my goodness, I could go on and on. You have so much knowledge to share with us, and as course creators, we need to be really good at Zoom. So you guys all need to grab Robbie's book. And I know you have some bonuses if people jump on it pretty quickly, right?
Actually, anybody who gets it. So the thing is, if you do get it by the end of March 27th, 2023, so I know you're going to release this with like a week's notice of that. The ebook is $2.99 US. But even at like $9.99, which is what it'll be after that, I think it's incredible value. And then the paperback's available for $29 if you like to thumb through things and highlight and turn the corners down, all that. But everybody has the option to get a Zoom settings checklist, a speaker prep session checklist, a green room checklist, simple run of show you how to set up PowerPoint using just one monitor while you're still able to see all your notes, and the speakers, all the participant videos and chat and participant window. Like that's a magical thing. Scheduling Zoom meeting guide, so all the settings for the Zoom meeting itself. Custom video filters tutorial, which I actually don't go into in the book. I just mention it, but it's pretty cool because it lets you have like something show up on your screen that you otherwise like couldn't show. So there's a lot of different options that kind of aren't something built in that you can play around with. And then of course there's a Google Slide countdown clock, which I use for when people are joining meetings, and 30 plus Zoom strategy videos. So all these different resources, and you opt into my email list. If you want to stick around. But this is a way to find out what I'm doing. And then once a month, I host a free No More Bad Zoom virtual happy hour. So people can opt into that. And that gives them also access to ask me questions every month. It's, we do Q&A at the end. So it's a great community. NoMoreBadZoom.com for that, and breakoutofboredom.com for all the bonus content and the books and everything else.
Oh my gosh, this is such a deal. Thank you so much for offering so much value for this. Like seriously, gang, if you're even remotely on the fence, you got to grab these, grab the book, grab all the bonuses, because it will make you so much better. And I know we're always talking about like, how can I be a better instructor, a better teacher? This is super easy way to really elevate your game and become so much better. So, oh my goodness.
Good book. I mean, the book has reached #1 bestseller status in 18 categories across 3 countries, and it's over 165 reviews, has a 98% 5-star rating. So this has been validated by fellow speakers, facilitators, and trainers. Course creators, definitely check it out. I believe that whether you're a Zoom novice or a seasoned pro, I have heard from both extremes. People have found it really valuable as a reference guide. So yeah, I'm very proud of what I put together. And I'm so pleased by how it's been received after pouring my heart into it.
Oh, congratulations. Like getting to bestseller status is incredible. So congratulations on that. And thank you for doing this for the planet. Sure. So we don't have to have any more bad Zoom. We needed your brilliance so much. So I appreciate it. And also thanks for being on the podcast. You'll have to come back because I think there was a lot more that we could dig into. And I don't want to make a 2-hour long episode. So hopefully you can come back. Everybody grab the book, and thanks for being here, Robbie. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Julie.
So I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Robbie and can grab the bonuses and his books. As you can tell, he's got lots of secrets to share with us. So thanks for being here. I'll catch you on the next episode. Have an amazing week. Take care.